AITA for pretending I was pregnant to get revenge on my sister? I'm a 27-year-old woman, and not long ago, I married the man of my dreams. He's 29, and everything about our wedding felt like a fairy tale. The venue was gorgeous, the weather was perfect, my dress looked exactly how I imagined, and even the little table centerpieces I spent months obsessing over turned out exactly the way I wanted. I made it clear to everyone that this day was about us, that nothing was going to take away from the moment we'd been planning for so long. But of course, my older sister, who's 34, kept teasing me the whole time. She joked that I was being overly controlling, that something was bound to go wrong because I wanted every little detail to be perfect. I ignored her comments and told her I wasn't in the mood for her usual jabs. I really thought that would be the end of it. But then at the reception, she pulled me aside and said her boyfriend wanted to ask me something. I figured he was going to ask where the bathroom was, or if there were any extra chairs or something harmless like that. Instead, he came over looking all nervous and said he wanted to propose to her right there at my wedding. His reasoning was that it would save him money on throwing a separate event and that the mood was already romantic, so why not do it now? Then he added that my sister told him I'd be totally fine with it. I just stared at him for a second before I told him flat out that I was absolutely not okay with him hijacking my wedding day so he could propose. I thought that was the end of it. I figured he got the message and they'd drop the idea. But not even 15 minutes later, I noticed people whispering and giving me weird looks. Turns out my sister was going around telling everyone that I'd given her boyfriend permission to propose, but then changed my mind last minute just to make her look bad. And then she told people he'd gone ahead and proposed anyway, which was a complete lie. Suddenly, it felt like everyone in the room was staring at me like I was some kind of monster who crushed her sister's engagement dreams. My phone blew up for days after the wedding with texts and calls from family and friends telling me how selfish and jealous I was. It didn't matter that none of what she said was true. Nobody cared about my side of the story. So last week, when it was finally her turn to get married, I decided to give her a taste of her own medicine. Right when the toasts were starting, I stood up, tapped my glass with my fork, and announced to the entire room that I was expecting a baby. My sister's face turned bright red, and she just stared at me in shock. Later that night, she sent me a string of furious texts calling me every awful name she could think of for stealing her moment and making her big day all about me. But what she didn't know was that I'm not pregnant at all. I was actually on my period while I stood there smiling and soaking in the attention. All night long, people kept coming up to me to offer their congratulations, thinking she must have known and approved. But the truth is she didn't know, and I wasn't expecting. I just wanted to see how she liked having her big day overshadowed by someone else's announcement. I know I went too far, but after what she pulled at my wedding, I couldn't help myself. AITA? Story 2. AITA for not wanting to attend my niece's wedding? My niece, a 25-year-old woman, was practically raised by me from infancy until she was 6, as her mother, my sister, was often absent during those years, chasing a wild lifestyle. I was young myself, 14 to 20, living with my grandmother, who did most of the caregiving since she worked long weekend shifts, leaving me to step up as the primary caretaker during those times. My niece and her twin sister, whom we'll call Elle, share a tight bond with me because of this. My niece's fiancé, a 26-year-old man, seems decent enough, with no major red flags initially. They've been together for 2 years. Elle confided in me that the fiancé planned to seek my blessing before proposing, which I didn't know about. He never reached out, which wasn't a huge issue, but when Elle asked how our talk went after the engagement was announced, I told her he never contacted me. He'd claimed to Elle that he'd spoken to me and my grandmother, but neither of us heard from him. He also told Elle she was the first to know about the proposal and see the ring, only for us to learn his sister knew before her. These were small deceits, but they started to pile up. The engagement itself felt like a slap to our family. He proposed during a private event at his family's lakeside retreat, with his parents and cousin there to capture it, while our family was left in the dark until it was over. He even told Elle the proposal would happen a week later at the twins' birthday celebration. Shortly after, I asked my niece, Em, if I could get certified to officiate their wedding, and she eagerly agreed, saying it'd be wonderful. Weeks later, during a casual chat, I mentioned starting the certification process, only for the fiancé to say his cousin was already officiating. Em nodded, saying, "Oh, yeah, that's true." I was hurt and blurted out, asking if this cousin had been there for her earliest years, helping raise her. He stayed quiet. Later, they left their puppy at my place while they traveled. The dog, which I'd met several times before with no issues, was usually friendly. While I was fetching something from my garage, it charged at me, biting my leg, requiring 6 stitches and a tetanus shot. The dog then bolted out the gate. Em retrieved it later, took it to a vet, who noted its increasing aggression and, after learning about my bite, required it to be put down. The fiancé never called, texted, or asked if I was was okay. Weeks later, when he was over, I sarcastically said, "My leg's doing great. Thanks for checking in." He ignored me and left the room. I was livid but held back. Recently, my grandmother treated L and the fiancé to a week-long trip to Atlantic City. When they returned, my grandmother shared she saw a side of him she didn't like. She explained he let her cover all expenses without offering to pitch in, bought snacks for himself without sharing, got drinks for himself and but ignored everyone else, and, most frustratingly, when they were at a slots parlor, she needed a quick $10 loan until her husband returned from an ATM. He claimed he had no cash, yet moments later, she saw his wallet stuffed with bills as he fed his machine. Even before this trip, I was reluctant to attend the wedding, feeling he's turning an event meant for my niece into his own spotlight. No, I really don't want to go, but skipping it would only wound him, who I love deeply. So, I'll probably show up anyway. AITA for feeling this way about not wanting to go? Story 3. AITA for leaving my friends to spend time with my boyfriend? My closest friend, Jay, and my boyfriend, T, are siblings. I've known Jay for 8 years, and I've been with T for 10 months. We all attend the same college. Yesterday, our school organized a trip to a water park, and things started off wonderfully, with all of us enjoying the day together. At one point, Jay and a few other friends wanted to try some water slides, but I wasn't in the mood, so I chose to relax at a nearby lazy river with T. About an hour later, I went to reconnect with them, but they all seemed upset, especially Jay. I spoke with 2 friends, who said they weren't bothered, but warned that Jay was really angry with me. For the rest of the day, Jay and most of the group completely ignored me, acting as if I wasn't there. So I decided to leave with T. Why would I stick around, trailing after them like a shadow, when they were shutting me out? Later that evening, Jay texted me, saying, "I understand you're caught up with T, but that doesn't mean everyone else disappears, and it really annoyed us that you and T ditched us. I don't get why my choice to leave with T was such a problem. It's not like it's unusual. I'll admit I've been distant with Jay lately, not hanging out with her much outside of classes. I've been dealing with personal challenges and haven't had the energy to go out with her. Meanwhile, I've been spending more time with T because he makes me feel understood and supported without judgment, something I used to feel with Jay. I sense she's been holding a grudge since T and I grew closer. I know I've slacked on keeping our friendship strong, and that's on me, but I've never pushed Jay away. She's always welcome to join us if she wants, and I wouldn't turn her away. Lately, I've struggled just to get through the day, and I don't have the drive to go out with her. I think she's blowing this out of proportion. Do I really deserve to be shunned and scolded just for choosing to spend time with my boyfriend? I feel awful, as hurting Jay was never my goal. AITA? Story 4. AITA for refusing to alter my hairstyle? My buddy, R, has been pushing me to expand my social circle, and he keeps insisting I should switch up my appearance, specifically my hairstyle, which is currently locks, to make myself more approachable. I get that he's trying to help, but I don't think he grasps how locks work or what they mean to me. I explained that locks aren't like other styles where you can just swap them out for something like cornrows or a fade. To change them, I'd have to chop off my hair entirely, and it would take years for it to grow back to its current length, which I've been cultivating for a long time. I laid this out for him, emphasizing that my locks are a big part of my identity, but now he's frustrated with me. He called me inflexible, saying my hair would eventually grow back if I cut it, and that my locks make me look unapproachable, which he thinks is why I'm struggling to connect with new people. He even suggested that a different style might draw more folks toward me. We had plans to take some photos together to post online and then head to a trampoline park for a fun day out. But after I stood my ground about keeping my locks, he backed out of the photo session, saying he didn't see the point if I wasn't willing to put in the effort to change my look. Part of me feels like he's being unfair and overly fixated on my appearance, dismissing how much my locks mean to me culturally and personally. I'm not against tweaking my style, like wearing different clothes or accessories to seem more outgoing or meet new people, but I draw the line at cutting my hair. Another part of me wonders if I'm being too rigid, and I can see he's just trying to help me fit in. Still, his insistence on my hairstyle feels like he's ignoring who I am, and a small voice in my head questions if his comments about my locks looking unappealing stem from a lack of understanding or something deeper, maybe even prejudice. I'm torn because I value our friendship, and I'm not trying to shut down his advice completely, but I don't understand why he's so stuck on my hair when there are plenty of other ways I could work on being more social. I feel guilty for upsetting him, but I also feel like he's crossing a line by pressuring me to change something so personal. AITA for not wanting to change my hairstyle? Before we move on to the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, tell us your favorite story in the comments, and if you have your own story to share, let us know down there too. Story 5. AITA for saying not my kid, not my fault if he has a seizure about my friend's brother? So I'm 15 and I've got a pool and hot tub at my house, which everyone likes to use when it's hot. A few weeks ago, I invited some friends over to swim. There was Dawn, who's 16, Alex, who's 17, and a couple others, but those two are the ones that matter for this story. Dawn decided to bring her two siblings along without really asking me. Their names are Gage, who's 8, and Kate, who's 13. Now, I didn't have an issue with them being there at first, but Gage is a handful. The whole time he was either crying or yelling or whining about something. He said he had a headache, so he sat out of the pool eating snacks. We all stayed in the water for a bit, and I finally decided to get out and go to the hot tub by myself because it's small and honestly, I wanted some peace. Gage saw me heading that way and jumped up saying he wanted to go too. Before I could even say anything, both his sisters told him no because the hot tub would make his headache worse. I also said no because I didn't want him there, but then Kate said something like, well, he can actually put just his feet in, but not his whole body. I got irritated because it felt like they were ignoring me and telling me what to do in my own house, so I muttered while walking away, not my fault if he has a seizure. I knew he'd had one before, but they never really explained why it happened, and they're super cautious about it now. A little later, my grandpa told us no hot tub for anyone anyway, so it didn't even matter. I thought that was the end of it. The next day, I was walking to the store like I always do, and I have to pass their house. May, who's 15, was sitting in her truck outside, so I stopped to talk to her, and she said Dawn was inside getting yelled at for something unrelated. I went to the store, and on my way back, I saw Gage, Kate, and Alex outside. I walked over to say hi, and Alex immediately said, you should probably go before you get yelled at too. I was confused and asked what I did wrong. He said, I don't know, but their mom is mad at you. I turned to Kate for an answer, and she said it was about what I said to Gage when I was going to the hot tub. I ended up getting a ride home from May because I felt weird. Later that day, I sent an apology message saying I was sorry for what I said and that I didn't mean it that way. I admitted I was frustrated because I had told Gage no, and they kept acting like they got to decide what happened in my house. I said that didn't make what I said okay, but I wanted them to know I wasn't trying to be mean. Kate, or maybe Dawn, responded I couldn't tell who because they both use the same account sometimes, and said I'll let her know you said that, but she's still upset, so she might not read it right now. Since then, they've come into the store where I work and won't talk to me. They even ask for a different cashier if I'm the one up front. Their mom won't speak to me either, which makes me think she's still mad or maybe doesn't want me around her kids anymore. Their dad is fine though and talks to me like normal, which makes me wonder if he even knows about the whole thing or maybe he just doesn't care. Dawn is grounded, so I haven't talked to her and don't know what she thinks. I feel stuck because I keep remembering all the times they've disrespected me in my own home, like when they use my stuff without asking or make a mess and leave, but now I'm terrified of losing these friends because they mean a lot to me. I can't tell if I totally messed up or if they're just being dramatic and need time to cool off. So AITA? Story 6. AITA for not wanting my best friend to go back to her toxic ex? I am 19, and my closest friend for the last 3 years is someone I will call Lily, who is also 19. We've been through a lot together, and I always thought we trusted each other with everything. She dated this guy named Evan who was 20, and from the start I could see it was not going to be good for her. He would constantly message other girls, cancel their plans last minute, and blame her for everything that went wrong. They fought all the time, sometimes over the dumbest reasons like who forgot to text back. Every time they broke up, she would cry to me about how bad he made her feel and how she deserved better. I would sit with her late into the night reminding her that she was worth more than the way he treated her. After their third breakup, she promised she was done for good. I believed her because she even blocked him everywhere and started going out more with me and our friends. She seemed happier and more like her old self. Then one day, she told me that Evan messaged her from a new account asking to meet up just to talk. I told her not to do it because I knew he would just pull her back in with fake apologies, but she insisted that this time it was different and that he had changed. I begged her not to, but she went anyway. After that, they started texting every day again, and before long, they were back together. I was frustrated, but I didn't want to lose her friendship, so I kept quiet for a while. Things went downhill fast. She stopped hanging out with us and even skipped classes because he wanted to spend every minute with her. When she did come around, she looked tired and upset and told me that he was jealous of her talking to any guy, even her own cousins. I told her again that she deserved better, but she kept saying he just needed time to get over his insecurities. A few weeks later, she called me crying because he accused her of lying about where she was and said he didn't trust her. She admitted to me that she was scared of how angry he got and that he punched the wall during their argument. I told her this was serious and she needed to leave him for good, but she said she loved him and didn't want to give up yet. She said he promised to change and that he even cried in front of her begging for one last chance. I felt like screaming because I had heard this exact story so many times before. I wrote her a long message explaining why she needed to walk away for her own safety and peace of mind, but she barely replied. Instead, she went quiet for a while and then showed up at my door with Evan standing behind her asking if they could come in and talk. I refused to let him in and she looked hurt, but I didn't care because I was done pretending this was okay. Later she texted saying she was sorry for putting me in that position, but that she wanted to make her own decisions. I told her she could, but I didn't want to be part of this anymore. A month passed and I thought maybe she would realize on her own, but then I saw on social media that they were on a trip together smiling like nothing ever happened. I sent her one last message saying I hoped she would be safe, but I couldn't watch her keep hurting herself like this. She never answered. Then Evan blocked me on everything. Lily did too a few days later. It hurt, but I also felt like I had done all I could. I still think about her and worry she's stuck in that awful relationship, but I can't drag her out if she refuses to leave. Some of our mutual friends said I was wrong for pushing her so hard, and that maybe I should have just supported her choices, but how could I do that when her choices were hurting her? I honestly feel like I did the right thing by telling her the truth, even if it cost me our friendship. But now I wonder if I overstepped or made things worse. So AITA?
Story 7.
AITA for telling my boyfriend he was being unfair by making me watch a series I couldn't follow? My boyfriend, who is 27, said since I chose the last movie night selection, it was his turn to pick this time, and I said, sure, that sounds fair, what do you want to watch? And he smiled, but would not tell me what he picked, only that it was a competition show that he was really into, so I trusted him and agreed. But as soon as the opening scene played, I realized it was all about this complicated strategy card game that he plays every weekend with his friends, and I have never played or even seen before, and the whole show revolved around players battling with cards full of rules and terms that meant nothing to me. So while the characters were throwing out moves and talking about combos and deck builds, I sat there completely confused, not knowing what was going on all because he didn't explain anything before the show started, or even as it was happening. He just kept watching excitedly while I felt lost and honestly a little frustrated because I had no way to understand what was happening, since the whole thing made no sense to me. And I told him gently that I didn't get what was going on, and he laughed a little and said, just keep watching, you'll figure it out. But I didn't, because the game they played in the show was complex and full of terms I'd never heard, and I started to feel like he didn't care whether I enjoyed the show at all, but only wanted to watch something he liked without thinking about whether I could enjoy it too. So after sitting through half an episode, totally confused, I told him it felt a little unfair of him to pick something so difficult for me to understand without even preparing me or explaining the basics, and I said it kind of felt like he didn't want me to enjoy it, but just wanted someone to sit next to him while he watched, and maybe that was harsh, but I felt upset in the moment, and he got quiet and asked if I thought he was selfish for picking the show, and I said no, not selfish, but maybe inconsiderate, and that upset him more because he said I was ruining his excitement and judging his hobby. But I wasn't trying to insult his interest, I just wanted to understand it, or at least be told what to expect, so I wouldn't be lost the whole time. And he said I should have trusted him and kept watching, and I said I could have if I knew even the basics, but I didn't, and he never told me anything about the game or the rules, so how was I supposed to follow it? And then he said I made him feel bad about liking the game, and I apologized, because that wasn't what I meant at all. I just wanted to enjoy the show with him, not sit confused and bored. So now I feel torn, because maybe I should have kept my mouth shut and tried harder to follow along, or maybe I was right to tell him it felt unfair to make me watch something so hard to understand without warning. So now I don't know if I overreacted or if he was really being unfair by not considering my point of view. So AITA.
Story 8.
AITA for wanting to visit my family just to spend time with them and not do home repairs when I get there. I am 29 and I live about 2 hours away from my mom and dad, who are both in their mid-50s and completely capable of taking care of themselves in their house. But every time I drive down to see them, it feels like they are expecting me to be free labor instead of just a son who wants to visit and relax with his parents like every other normal adult. I work full-time just like they do. I have my own responsibilities, bills, stress, and life to handle, but somehow, whenever I visit, it always turns into a list of things to fix or clean or move around in their house. They have some debts, sure, but they also make much more money than I do. Together they bring in 5 times what I make, and they could easily afford to hire professionals to do this stuff if they really wanted to. Instead, they wait until I drive all the way down and then surprise me with, hey, can you help fix the gutter? Or the sink is leaking again, can you tighten this pipe? Or can you climb on the roof and check something? It is never just sitting down for coffee or going for a walk or having dinner without an agenda. They always squeeze in these tasks, and when I told them that I was tired of coming down just to be used for housework, they acted hurt, like I was being selfish for not helping family. They tried to guilt me, saying things like, we raised you and took care of you when you were young, and now you cannot even help with a few things around the house. But I think that is not fair, because this is their house, their problem, and their choice to own a big old place that needs repairs, and if they wanted to, they could pay someone else to do all of this. They even give me gas money sometimes, but that does not cover the time and effort I put in, especially when they spring bigger tasks on me without asking in advance, like repairing part of the fence or replacing old light fixtures. And when I said I was done doing repairs and only wanted to visit to spend quality time with them, they got distant and cold, like I was betraying them or something. But I really do not think it is wrong to want to spend time together as family without having to pick up a hammer or screwdriver every time. So now I am wondering AITA for not wanting to help renovate their home and just wanting to hang out with my parents. Before we move on to the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, tell us your favorite story in the comments. And if you have your own story to share, let us know down there too.
Story 9.
AITA for not wanting to make a big deal out of my own birthday this year. My 23rd birthday is coming up in just a few days, and honestly, I do not want to do anything at all to mark the day. No party, no dinner, no group outing, no gathering. I simply want to wake up to my regular morning routine, go to work, hit the gym, and then maybe come home and watch some movies or play some games by myself. That is what feels right to me this year, but my family and friends do not see it that way. They are all insisting that I need to celebrate in some way. They keep asking what my plans are, if they can throw a party or organize something, and every time they ask, I say the same thing, that I do not want to do anything, that I am fine with treating it like any other day, but they keep pushing and asking and hinting, and now I am just frustrated. I started a new job last month, and I am still adjusting to it. The hours are long, and the learning curve is steep, and I am drained every single day. On top of that, I have been working on my mental health, and it has been exhausting trying to balance everything. I barely have the energy to call friends back, let alone dress up and smile through a dinner that I did not want in the first place. I tried to explain this to my best friend when she mentioned booking a dinner reservation. I told her gently that I appreciated the thought, but that I really wanted to skip any sort of celebration this time. She brushed it off and kept asking what time I would be free for a small gathering, and that is when I got irritated and told her flat out to stop planning anything because I was not going to show up if she did. I also told my parents that if they really wanted to do something, they could make a quiet meal at home, but that was the most I could handle. They were disappointed, I could tell, and my friend stopped texting me after that, which makes me feel like I might have hurt her feelings, and now I feel bad because I do not want to upset the people who care about me, but I also feel like I am being cornered into doing something I have no interest in. I just want one quiet, normal day without expectations or pressure. I am not trying to be rude or ungrateful, but I feel like this is about what I need right now and not about making everyone else happy. I know birthdays are important to other people, but for me this year, I just do not want to make it into an event. Is that really so wrong? I have been distancing myself from everyone a little because I am tired of explaining over and over again why I feel this way, and it makes me wonder if I am the problem here. Am I being selfish by asking for space, or is it okay to want a quiet birthday with no fuss? I do not know anymore. AITA.
Story 10.
AITA for standing up to my aunt during a stressful time and not apologizing for it. My family situation has always been a little tense after years of disagreements and misunderstandings. It is mostly just my mom and I now, since the rest of the family drifted away or chose sides after arguments that I never really understood. I do have an aunt, my mom's sister, and we keep occasional contact, but our relationship is far from close. My mom has serious health problems and she needs dialysis 3 times a week, so she is weak most of the time and cannot do much around the house. A few days ago, something really scary happened. My mom was standing at the kitchen sink when she started coughing heavily, and then suddenly I heard a loud noise from the other room. When I ran in, I found her collapsed on the floor unconscious. It was terrifying. She was only out for a few seconds, but when she came around, she was confused and shaky. We decided to go to the hospital right away, but since I do not have my driver's license yet and my mom cannot drive herself, we called my aunt to come pick us up. She came quickly and drove us to the hospital. After a long wait, they told us they would keep my mom for observation overnight. My aunt then gave me a ride home, and during the drive, she started giving me advice about how we should be eating healthier and managing things better at home, like I was somehow responsible for my mom's health. I stayed quiet because in our family, we are taught not to talk back to elders, but it bothered me. The next day, I had to go to work, and she offered to drive me again, but she was using our car, which had been making strange noises. When she picked me up, the car was making an even louder clanking sound, but she did not seem concerned. Instead, she started lecturing me again about what I should be doing in life, how I should take more responsibility, how I should be more supportive to my mom. I stayed silent again because I did not want to argue. Then the following day, when my mom was discharged, my aunt offered to pick her up using our car again. The car noise was still terrible, but they made it home. The plan was to take it to the mechanic that afternoon. On the way to the shop, the car completely broke down right in the middle of the road. We were stuck in the heat for over an hour waiting for a tow truck. It was miserably hot, and I felt awful. I had not eaten yet I still had to do laundry, and I was stressed about work. I admit I snapped a little at my mom while we waited, which I apologized for later, because I knew she was not to blame once the car was towed. To the shop, my aunt blamed the mechanic for recommending the tow service, as if it was somehow his fault that the car gave out. I spoke up and defended the mechanic because he has always been fair and honest with us and could not have predicted this happening. My aunt got angry and said I was being disrespectful and rude to her, but I felt like I had to say something because I knew she was wrong. I stopped talking and stayed quiet the rest of the ride home. When we got back, she texted my mom saying that my mom should have stopped me from speaking out, that I needed to be put in my place like I was a child. I am 23 years old, and she was acting like I was still a kid who needed scolding. I later sent her a message apologizing if standing up for myself came across as disrespectful, and told her that if she had an issue she could talk to me directly and not drag my mom into it, especially since my mom had just been discharged from the hospital. In response, she sent me a long text calling me ungrateful, mentally unstable, and accusing me of being mean to my mom, which is not true since she does not live with us and has no idea what goes on in our home. She also insulted my mom, saying she needed to grow a backbone, that she was blind to my supposed bad behavior, which felt cruel and unnecessary. After that, I decided to block her for my own mental peace. I talked to my therapist, who suggested keeping distance from her for now because this pattern has happened before, but this was the first time I ever stood up for myself. Now, because of this, we have no car and my mom still needs rides to dialysis. She never checked on my mom after the hospital stay. No call, no text, no offer to help, nothing. And then suddenly on Monday, she texted like nothing had happened, pretending everything was normal without even asking how my mom was doing or apologizing. She did the same thing today, too. No concern, no apology, nothing. Luckily, my mom found another way to get to her treatment, but my aunt did not even bother to check in. I feel guilty now, like maybe I made the situation worse, because now my mom has no help from her sister. We also found out today that our car needs a new engine, which I have no money for, and it is making me feel overwhelmed and hopeless. My aunt used to help with big expenses, but now she refuses to talk to my mom. Either I do not know if I ruined everything or if I was right to speak up for what I thought was fair. So tell me, AITA. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell us your favorite story in the comments, and feel free to share your own story too.